With me now is Richard Hasen. He is a professor of law at the UCLA School of Law and is the director of the Safeguarding Democracy Project. Richard, do you think that these new emails could open up Ginni Thomas to any possible legal problems herself, even though she's not elected and she doesn't sit on the Supreme Court?
I don't think these emails themselves really add much. They're pretty much the same emails that went to legislators in Arizona, and they were kind of prefabricated emails. I'm much more concerned about the contact she was having with the White House, including the emails you mentioned with Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, in which she's urging actions that look like they could be trying to overturn the results of the 2020 election. So I certainly think she's got relevant evidence for the January 6th committee, and she's someone that probably the Department of Justice is going to want to take a look at.
Well, we know this, that one member of the January 6th committee says the panel still wants to talk to Ginni Thomas. Ginni Thomas earlier, before all this, had said that she would talk to the panel, hasn't done so yet. Let's take a listen to what the legislator said.
I would say she has irrelevant testimony to render, and she should come forward and give it. I don't want to overstate her role. We've talked to more than 1,000 people, but we'd like to hear from Gingrich, and we'd like to hear from her, too.
They'd like to hear from her. She was willing to talk, but one of her attorneys has claimed there is no sufficient basis for them to speak to her. Should the committee go ahead and subpoena her?
Well, I think it really depends on whether they think that they need her to get the relevant evidence. Obviously, it's going to be very politically sensitive to be subpoenaing the spouse of a sitting Supreme Court justice. This whole situation is very uncomfortable. You have Justice Thomas on the court deciding issues related to disputes over the 2020 election, and now potentially prosecutions over the insurrection at the Capitol. And so it's a very dicey situation. I'd leave it to the committee as to whether or not they need her particular testimony. But they already have those texts, which tell you that she was trying to influence how the 2020 election was going to be potentially interfered with.
You know, Justice Thomas was the only justice to publicly dissent from the Supreme Court move in January not to block a court order greenlighting the release of Trump White House documents to the House investigators. How much of what Ginni Thomas has said will make people really question the work of a Supreme Court justice who sits now on the Supreme Court and has done for a very long time? And in the end, should he have to recuse himself from any hearings on any cases that involve the 2020 election and the Capitol insurrection?
Well, first of all, the question of recusal, the way it's worked at the Supreme Court, is that each justice gets to make his or her own decision as to whether or not recusal is warranted. I think at the very least, Justice Thomas has to explain himself. A number of years ago, there was a challenge to Justice Antonin Scalia, who was a hunting buddy of Dick Cheney, the former vice president, and he issued an opinion explaining why he thought he could decide these cases without it raising any kinds of issues. To the extent that Justice Thomas's spouse is someone who could be under criminal investigation, or at least under investigation by the January 6th committee. And to the extent that she was involved in these activities, I think Justice Thomas owes a similar explanation to the American people as to why he thinks he could sit on such cases without it raising at least the appearance of a conflict of interest between the justice's personal life and his professional decisions.
Even though it is not his words, it's the words of his wife, does this really damage the credibility of the U.S. Supreme Court that is already going through a public crisis, if you will, in some ways, and in a lot of people's minds?
Well, right now, public opinion about the Supreme Court is very divided by party. It's not a surprise because for the first time in modern history, all the conservatives on the court have been appointed by presidents of one party and all the liberal justices by presidents of another party. So already there's a lot of tension. But what the Justice Thomas issue adds is the issue of a kind of personal conflict, not just one about ideology, but one where, a person's spouse could potentially be under investigation. And I think that lends itself to a new level of distrust, and it does deserve some explanation from Justice Thomas.
Professor Hasen, thank you for your insights. This is a really big deal to America's democracy and to the Supreme Court. We will see what happens in this case. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.